This is the other floodgate that I mentioned that protects the city. When the floodwaters come down the river from the north, they slide this floodgate down from up above. It seals off the river and stops the floodwaters going into the city to cause any damage. Well, the worst flood ever to hit San Antonio happened back in 1921. In that flood, we are told that the floodwaters were 9 feet deep across the city streets. Well, if that's true, there's a city street directly in front of the boat. That is St. Mary's Street. And that's one of the oldest streets in the city. So you imagine 9 feet of water across that bridge. And that will give you a rough idea of just how deep the floodwaters were going through the city in that flood of 1921, which was long before the floodgates were installed to protect the city. Well, the building on our right-hand side, the very historic Esquire Tavern. It opened its doors as a tavern the day after Prohibition was lifted in the United States back in 1933. And then next door to the Esquire, here on the right and up above, the newest hotel on the Riverwalk. This is the Canopy Hotel. There are 22 stories above us. The Canopy Hotel only opened up at the end of last year. It's brand new here on the San Antonio Riverwalk. So around the city of San Antonio, we have a number of historic old theatres that have been lovingly restored and brought back to life. One of those theatres is called the Aztec Theatre, and as we come out from under the bridge, this is the Aztec Theatre up here on the right-hand side, built 1926. It was the place you would come to in the 1920s and 30s if you wanted to see the latest movies from Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Rudolph Valentino. They were all showing over here on the right-hand side of the Aztec Theatre. But sadly, the Aztec fell into a little bit of disrepair over the years. So it was closed down, it was renovated, and then it became a concert venue. And some of the performers that have been at the Aztec since they've opened it include Journey, Styx, ZZ Top, Eddie Money, Casey and the Sunshine Band, and Olivia Newton-John, just to name some. Well, this pretty little bridge is called the Robert Hugman Bridge. Now, I've mentioned Robert Hugman's name a few times. We call him the father of the Riverwalk. Back in the 1920s, Robert Hugman, the architect, had a vision for the San Antonio River. And that vision turned into the San Antonio Riverwalk that we're all enjoying today. Fair to say we would not be doing this if it wasn't for his vision and that bridge behind us, named after Robert Hugman. But if you saw the movie Selena with Jennifer Lopez from the late 1990s, based on the life of the great singer Selena Quintanilla, they shot a lot of that movie right here in San Antonio. There's a memorable scene in the movie with J-Lo sitting on that bridge behind us. So we also call that bridge back there Selena's Bridge. And the building on our left-hand side, it came into being in 1853 as a boys' boarding school. Now that school grew and grew over the years till it eventually turned into St. Mary's University Law School. The law school outgrew this location, so they moved the campus outside the city. The building on our left was sold, it was renovated, and then it became a hotel. Now it is the very historic Omni La Mansion Hotel down by the river. Now just up in front of us on the left-hand side, here comes the restaurant Bubba Gump over here on the left. As we come out from under the bridge, have a look at the building up on top of Bubba Gump, high on the left-hand side. It looks like the building up here above us on the left is balancing on one wall up there. Well, I don't think we're in any danger. That building has been there since 1930. That is the former Next Hospital. And it was the first air-conditioned hospital in the United States. No longer a hospital. The building has now been sold and closed. It will become a new luxury hotel here on the Riverwalk in times to come. Some of the people who were born in the Next Hospital back in the day, the legendary entertainer Carol Burnett, who grew up here in San Antonio. Also Colonel Oliver North, also born in that hospital. Well, this is a pretty part of the river. This is known as South Bank. Some really nice restaurants through here. You know, there are over 100 restaurants around the San Antonio Riverwalk and the nearby streets. So no matter what sort of food you're looking for, there's every likelihood you'll find it either at the river's edge or close by. And the building in front of the boat, that is the Hyatt Regency Hotel. It was built in 1981. When this hotel in front of us was constructed, the height of the building was kept at 16 stories. And that was done for a reason. You see, on the other side of this hotel from where we are sits the Alamo. Nobody wanted a shadow over the Alamo at sunset. So it was calculated that if this building on our left here was kept at 16 stories in height, when the sun sets in the west at the end of every day, the Alamo on the other side will never be in shade. And if you've ever heard of a singer by the name of Phil Collins, well, apart from giving us some great music over the years, Phil Collins actually has another passion in his life apart from music. That happens to be the Alamo. He's even written a book about it. And over the years, Phil Collins has collected hundreds of artifacts from the Alamo worth millions of dollars. And he has donated them back to the Alamo for a museum, and that museum is expected to open up later this year. Well, this historic building on our right-hand side is the Casino Club building, built 1927. Up on top of the building, on the right above us, there are apartments up there. Now, one of the famous residents that lived in one of those apartments in years gone by, the author Alex Haley. He lived here in San Antonio for a short while in the Casino Club building. And he must have enjoyed his time here because he encouraged his good friend Maya Angelou to come and live here as well, which she did. He fell in love with San Antonio and the Riverwalk, just like Alex Haley. Well, this is always a pretty popular part of the river. This is known as River Square. Lots of great restaurants, as you can see on the side. All sorts of fabulous dining experiences. And it's also a part of the river where oftentimes you might get to hear mariachi bands as well. Now, before we go underneath the Commerce Street Bridge, which is coming up in front of us, there's a building on the right just ahead with a curved balcony. On the front of the balcony on the right, it says Hugman Architect. Well, I mentioned the name Robert Hugman a few times, the man we call the father of the Riverwalk, who designed the Riverwalk we're all enjoying. This building on our right with his name on the front was his actual architect's office in the 1940s as the Riverwalk was being built. And over near the staircase on the right, tucked away in the corner, there is a bust of Robert Hugman and a little bit of a storyboard.